a bit of a hybrid between conventional agriculture, small farms, family farms, and educational establishment. We have a little of both. We do raise somewhere on the order of 4,000 to 5,000 fruit trees, and we raise sweet corn and pumpkins and various row crops, strawberries and raspberries and so forth. But we don't really, nor would we ever think that we could actually provide a living for the number of people that we actually do by selling produce. So we have the challenges of dealing with Mother Nature and bringing in a crop and trying to sell it. But we really mix that with our education products, which are Revolutionary War reenacting and Civil War living history and living history balls and dinners and that sort of thing. So our primary income really is using the backdrop of a farm to educate kids about the Revolutionary War. We early on agreed to do Civil War reenacting because they looked at our farm, at the landscape of it, the breadth of it, and they said this would be the perfect place to reenact a battle from the Civil War. And even people like Steven Spielberg agreed and did movies like Amistad here, and we did lots of work for the History Channel and Discovery Channel and that sort of thing. So farming and education are a good mix for us.
And small farms like this are so beneficial. We just can't go without them. We need them. Our farm here, with its 700 some acres, is a great place. People can bring their kids up. They can see some open space. They can see what it's like to pick an apple or pick a raspberry or see corn growing in the field or hay. It's just so important not to have mega farm where you have thousands of acres with machinery on it. Here you'll see some old-fashioned tractors, but you're as likely to see someone out with a scythe cutting wheat in the fall. And people need to know what our history is, where our background, where food really comes from. It's not just from the grocery store or from a great big farm. That what we do here is just very essential, and I think people get a big kick out of coming up here. I know my family members like to come up here many times during the year and pick apples or pick raspberries and just enjoy the ambiance of being out in the fresh air under the trees, up a little cooler from the cities down below. So it's really important that we keep these small farms.
So one of the challenges of being a living history farm is, though we are an actual apple farm and do produce and sell apples, we don't make enough on that alone to survive necessarily. So we do our living history presentations and various activities. One of my personal favorites is the dancings, the dances and balls and such that we do. Such as coming up now in September, we have our Blue-Gray Ball. It's take place in about 1860, and it's one of our costume events, costume required events, where everyone, guests and staff included, are dressed up in the 1880s or 1860s time period. We have our Berry Pickers Ball. We have our night before Mother's Day and night before Father's Day dinner and dance. We have, let's see, our Legend of Sleepy Hollow dinner and dance. We have our Christmas Carol and various other ones. But as I said, my personal favorite on that is when we actually do the dances. Each of our dinners include a large meal with several different courses included on that, depending on the exact style of dinner that it is. And we'll have various activities, but one that's almost guaranteed is the dancing. And I'm one of the dance masters here at the farm, so I have the pleasure of teaching and leading a lot of the different dances. We do Virginia Reel, the Ball of Yarn, Patty Cake Polka, Yankee Doodle, the Black Nag, and countless other ones that we'll be teaching through the different dinners and such. It's a whole lot of fun.
American battle history really doesn't take place in municipal parks with neat manicured lawns and little blacktop trails. It really occurred on farms, and so we were approached years ago by some Civil War reenactors to do battle reenactments, and it was a perfect environment to reenact things like Gettysburg and the Revolutionary era Saratoga and Bunker Hill, Breeds Hill, because that's all farm country. And so when you wonder what it's like to run a small farm, we really don't run a small farm. We do raise crops, and we use them as loss leaders to educate people about farming and about American history. So we're a very unconventional small farm, as small farms go. We basically are a trial and error farm in some ways. We try lots of different things. We do living history dinners where we'll bring up Civil War reenactors and everybody is dressed in antebellum clothing, and we have Civil War brass bands, and our guests pay to be part of a dinner in the past. So that's one of our more popular programs. We have Sleepy Hollow, which is a celebration of Washington Irving's timeless tale of romance and hijinks. And well, we find that our customers like being in open spaces where there's neatly laid out orchards and pumpkin fields and very few fences, and they're willing to pay for those spaces by, buying dinner from us or buying Americana. I mean, quill and ink sets and paper and looms and that sort of thing, and period clothing, but mostly I think what our mainstay has been is reenacting the Revolutionary War for school children. And out here in California, there's not very much Revolutionary War living history. Even in the reenacting community, there's not very many reenactors who take that as their hobby, as their era, and so we found that there was an open market for telling the story of the 18th century in America. What we found up here in Oak Glen was that there are a lot of folks who buy 2 or 3 acres of land and they think they've bought the rights to 3,000 or 4,000 acres of solitude. So somebody opens up a camp for kids next to them, and their impulse is to try and shut them down. And I've always thought, if you love a field next to you, if you love that beautiful field full of wildflowers next to you, and you've bought your home and you want to enjoy that field of wildflowers, but it doesn't happen to be yours, maybe you ought to buy that field of wildflowers so that you can preserve it. But don't tell the fellow who owns that field of wildflowers that they've got to somehow keep it for your personal enjoyment. And we run into that. We ran a lot into our struggle in establishing a living history farm for families, because when you open up a farm like this to the public, you create an attraction. There might be as many as 10 or 12 buses full of school kids that come up here in a day. And if you talk about an environmentally sensitive way of bringing people to Oak Glen, a school bus is about as good as they get. I mean, you put everybody in one vehicle, you drive them up the hill. You don't create a Disneyland monstrosity of a whole parking lot full of cars. And so we felt it was a pretty environmentally sensitive and a culturally sensitive thing to do, because we were educating kids, we're paying for the farm, and we thought it was win-win. But they're kind of a small cadre of people competing business people and neighbors who really don't like people, truth be told. I didn't want anybody next to them. So, but fortunately, I think that the powers that be saw the wisdom of our project, and we won unanimously. And now we face the challenge of going on with this original vision that we all fell in love with as a family 20 years ago. And no one has written the book, really the textbook, on how to run a living history farm or how to run a living history venue. My personal feeling is that if you look around the country and you see places that preserve American history, they tend to be run by docents, by nonprofit museums. And a lot of them are great, but a lot of docents and a lot of nonprofits don't have the impulse to please the customer the way a for-profit business does. And we're very proud of the fact that we're a small family business, we're for-profit, and that means that all of our staff is trained to love and respect the guests, to appreciate them as members of their family. So,
yeah, that's good.
I get a little emotional because we fought pretty hard for the farm.